The holidays are here, so get the gift that you know everyone needs, premium wireless audio. Raycon's range of high-quality, affordable audio products are the perfect gift for your girlfriend, your dad, or even your nan. Get 15% off your order when you visit buyraycon.com/skillup. Click the link below to check them out or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. Personally, I'm over here in Hell A, staring out my window at the crypto arena, remembering that Matt Damon crypto commercial. I get teary-eyed every single time. He's so brave. That bubble may have burst, but the Game Awards hype bubble is still swelling. Just a little while after this video goes live, I'll be in the Game Awards audience, ready to leap out of my seat and crash tackle any fools who want to get cute with a microphone that doesn't belong to them. Will I accidentally tackle Sven Vinky as he stands up to accept his Game of the Year win for Baldur's Gate 3? You'll just have to tune in to find out, I guess. A bit of housekeeping for this episode though. You may notice some changes in sound quality during this video as I'm recording on different mics at different locations, but that's what it's like when you're putting a show together on the road. Secondly, you'll likely notice that this episode is long. That is for two reasons. Number one, I wrote it on the plane, and Australia is very, very far away from everywhere else, and it turns out that if you just keep writing for 10 hours straight, you can write a lot. So that's what we've got. And second, and I'm not sure if you've heard, but a little game called Grand Theft Auto 6 was revealed this week. I'm sure most of you are unfamiliar with that series, but don't worry, you're in the right place because this is This Week in Video Games, and here comes the biggest reveal of 2023. What the hell is this? Why isn't he playing the trailer? Why is he using stills? I'll tell you why. It's because Take-Two are the only publisher on the face of the earth who will claim all of the ad revenue from your YouTube video if you use their official trailer footage. I've learned that lesson the hard way many times over the years and eventually reverted to using stills. I will leave a link to the trailer below so you can see it for yourself, but let's be real, you've already watched it like 18 times as well as 14 different YouTube videos analyzing it, so I ask you, what the hell are you doing here? I'm just joking, of course. I love you. Thanks for stopping by. So to tell the story of the GTA 6 trailer reveal, we need to go back just a little bit. In the beginning, there was nothing. But then some space stuff happened, and a while after that, humans existed. And some of them thought it would be pretty cool if you could beat up random strangers on the sidewalk and explode things. But since those things were illegal and those people didn't want to go to jail, they settled on making a video game where you could do all of that stuff and other things involving working girls that I can't describe here or I'll get demonetized. Those people were Rockstar, and the game they made was GTA. It started as a top-down PC game, but in the PS2 era, it went 3D, becoming the worldwide phenomenon that has only gained momentum with each new release. Well, 4 felt like things slowed down a little bit, but 5 certainly made up for it, since that went on to sell 190 million copies and become the single most profitable piece of entertainment media in the history of our species. GTA 5 was released 10 years ago. We were up to Fast and the Furious 6 back then, and now what are we up to? No one knows. But what we do know is that the hype for GTA 6 has been building that entire time. Everyone wondering where Rockstar would take both their franchise and the medium of video games next. The wait had plenty of speed bumps along the way, not least of all the, waiting. Previously, Rockstar had put out games every 1 or 2 years, but GTA 5 was making so much money through GTA Online that Rockstar was in no hurry to get GTA 6 out the door. Then, of course, came the leak. Last year, someone managed to hack into Rockstar's system and pull a bunch of in-development gameplay files from their servers. They quickly uploaded them and people confirmed that they were real. They looked fine-ish. It was early build stuff, so it had lots of game dev stuff overlaid and the visuals were by no means final. These aren't the right things to showcase when you want to reveal something you've been working on for nearly a decade, so the leak definitely hit Rockstar pretty hard and it was kind of nice to see the gaming community rally around them in support. Regardless of how much or how little of the leaked footage you saw, the leak whet everybody's appetite and people were ravenous for more info. They'd get it, but not before 2 more leaks. The first happened just this week, and it turns out the person responsible may have been the son of one of the lead developers. I'm not going to report on the name because children are involved, but whoever it was uploaded videos to TikTok showing shots of a GTA 6 cityscape. If it was the developer's son, I suspect Christmas is cancelled for him this year. The other leak happened just yesterday, and it was for the full Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer that someone had got hold of and uploaded early. It went on a burner Twitter account, and because this person is all class, they emblazoned it with the words "Buy BTC" with this obnoxious watermark. And you know what? It fucking worked. The price of Bitcoin went up. Though to be fair, it probably wasn't because of this joker. And if you know why it did spike, please feel free to not tell me. I don't care. With the trailer out and already amassing millions of views, Rockstar had no choice. Quote, "Our trailer has leaked, so please watch the real thing on YouTube," end quote. And boy, did we. The GTA 6 trailer is among the fastest viewed YouTube videos in history. And I'm not talking 2x speed, I'm talking 70 million views in less than 24 hours. The only way it would have gotten more views is if it had debuted on Mr. Beast's YouTube channel. I bet you he's in GTA 6, by the way. Aiden Ross is apparently in it, so if they're gonna put him in it, they'll put fucking anyone in there. As for the trailer itself, it's pretty incredible, not gonna lie. I feel like we've reached a point where graphical fidelity no longer really impresses us all that much, not in a meaningful way that makes you do a double take like we used to in previous console generation leaps. But this trailer, man, like, this all gameplay trailer, most likely, this was a moment where everyone who saw it was like, holy fuck, including LeBron James. I love the response to that tweet, by the way. This guy's like, "Bro, trying to get early access." So true. Shoot your shot, King James, and Godspeed to you. There's a huge amount that can be gleaned from this trailer, too much to break down here. But yes, it is set in Vice City, only now we're pulling back to encompass more of Florida's overall craziness. The Florida Man meme is so strong that it is crossed into the mainstream collective, and GTA 6 appears to be the Florida Man simulator, complete with alligators and so much twerking that I feel like they're gonna have a dedicated twerk button on the controller. Beyond that, it does confirm the dual love interest protagonist thing, channeling Bonnie and Clyde with a modern social media infused twist. There seems to be the same biting satire, irreverent parody, and sexual suggestiveness that the series has always been known for, as well as the violence and the cars and the crime and all that good stuff. It really does look genuinely amazing. It's just a shame that it ain't coming anytime soon. We were hopeful that this would release in 2024, but it turns out it's likely to ship in Q1 2025, as the title is locked for a 2025 release date. But publisher Take-Two have been very vocal about the fact that they should expect a bumper year, and their financial year concludes March 25. Most disappointing, the game is not coming to PC on day one, consistent with Rockstar's previous release cadence that gives them the ability to double dip, selling the same game twice to PC audiences who couldn't wait for a port that's probably going to take a good 18 months to 2 years at least. It is a bummer, but Rockstar gonna Rockstar, so what are you gonna do? And there you have it, GTA 6, it's right there. Or at least it will be in 2025. Until then, expect a trickle of news and gameplay reveals that are sure to keep the YouTube creator ecosystem afloat. Just watch out for all the clickbait. I've seen some of it and it's definitely pretty wild out there. I'm sure Jeff Keighley would have loved to have gotten his mitts on that Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer, but sadly for him, it wasn't meant to be. No problem though, he can console himself with the dozens of other trailers and world premieres he's sure to have rolling at the Game Awards in just a few short hours from now. One thing to note though, Jeff Keighley has made clear that security for the event has been tightened up, with the express intent of avoiding any more dickheads running up onto stage to grab the mic. You guys thought I was joking about being on standby to crash tackle fools? But Jeff Keighley's got me on retainer. On-stage security may be the least of Jeff's problems though, as recently the awards themselves have gotten Jeff into a spot of hot water. There's been a lot of discussion about the indie category, since a lot of the games in there aren't actually indie titles. The term indie in the strictest sense means independent, so that's a studio both developing and publishing their game without the help of a dedicated publisher. Of course, that's not how we actually use the term. We call Devolver games indies, even though Devolver is a billion-dollar publisher, and publishers like Raw Fury, Team 17, and scores of others we broadly refer to as indie labels or indie publishers. It's kind of an oxymoron, but that's how we use the term. So this year, there's a game called Dave the Diver, which is kind of a shoo-in for best indie game. If you've played it, you know what I'm talking about, because it's genuinely incredible and hands down one of the best games of the year, indie or not. The problem is that it comes from a studio called Mint Rocket, who aren't actually a studio. They're an internal first-party team within Nexon, a large-scale billion-dollar publisher. So is Dave the Diver an indie? Obviously not, but Dave the Diver has pixel graphics and it sells for like $30, so we call it an indie. That shorthand is generally fine, but when it comes to awards, it does actually matter. There should be an awards category that recognizes truly independently made games, because it's incredibly difficult to not only make a game, but also publish it. The studios that manage to pull that off shouldn't be competing with studios aided by the deep pockets and infrastructure of an established publisher. Despite this, Dave the Diver is nominated for Best Indie, and it's led to Jeff Keighley copping some flack. Many argue that the game should be ineligible for this category, but Jeff is less than concerned. Speaking to a Q&A he hosted on Twitch, Jeff responded to a question on the matter with this, quote, "Independent can mean different things to different people, and it's sort of a broad term, right? I mean, you could argue, does independent mean the budget of the game? Does independent mean where the source of the financing was? Is it based on team size? Is it the kind of independent spirit of a game, meaning kind of a smaller game that's different? Everyone has their own opinion about this, and we really defer to our jury, 120 global media outlets that vote on these awards to kind of make that determination of if something is independent or not," end quote. So on the one hand, I kind of get where Jeff's coming from. I mean, I've certainly called Dave the Diver an indie to this point because there's really no other label for it, and whenever this question does pop up, there's no quick answer. This is an unsolved problem that hasn't really needed a solution because it doesn't really matter what labels we slap on games when we're talking about them, but it does matter in the case of an award, and Jeff, as the convener of those awards, now has to take this unsolved problem and solve it. He can't simply leave it to the judges panel to do that. Hopefully next year there's a stricter framework in place that separates games like Dave the Diver out from truly self-published titles like Lethal Company, Sea of Stars, Pizza Tower, etc., while also creating a space for these smaller games published by established publishers to be recognized. As a perfect example of how amorphous this indie category is, let's turn our attention to another indie title, Cyberpunk 2077. If for whatever reason you still haven't played through it, then good news, there's more stuff on the way. We kind of assumed that patch 2.0 would be the very last content update for the game, but I guess we assumed wrong, because this week CD Projekt Red announced that in addition to the Ultimate Edition launching this week, patch 2.1 will deploy, featuring all sorts of unexpected goodies. What's in store? Well, firstly, a functional metro system. That's something that people have long wanted, to the point where modders put it in the game a long time ago. Now it'll be an officially supported feature, resulting in a more immersive fast travel experience. There's also new hangout spots where you can take your companions to just hang out. There's a new radio feature that lets the song keep playing even after you get out of your vehicle. There's new motorcycles, new motorcycle combat, the chance to replay previous racing missions, and tons more. None of this is game changing, of course, but it is game enlarging, and it does make you wonder if CD Projekt Red are sneakily working on other improvements for Cyberpunk along with their other projects. What are those other projects? Well, it's Cyberpunk 2 and The Witcher 4, of course, and this week we learned that roughly 50% of CD Projekt Red's workforce are currently working on The Witcher 4. We didn't know that they were working on it, of course, but that resource allocation is a genuine surprise. That means it's well and truly in full production, and it's likely to be their next major release. While we're waiting for that though, it may interest you to learn that CD Projekt Red recently announced that they were developing official modding tools for The Witcher 3. There have, of course, always been mods for The Witcher 3 since the game originally released. How else do you get naked Geralt and Yennefer doing the dirty on the back of a unicorn? Wait, that was real? Anyway, the mod tools make the act of modding the game significantly easier, opening up to a whole new category of modders while also improving the overall quality of most mods. Given what we've seen with the likes of Bethesda games, I think we can very much expect to see entire expansions spun up, or The Witcher 1 and 2 remade in The Witcher 3. Let's hope CD Projekt Red don't pull a Rockstar and copyright those, as CD Projekt Red are themselves working on a remake for The Witcher 1. Sticking with generation-defining RPGs for a moment longer, this week Baldur's Gate 3 studio Larian did the unthinkable. They actually finished Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little, but let's take a step back. Baldur's Gate 3 is, of course, a masterpiece. 130 hours of the best written characters, best presentation, most flexible combat sandbox, and most reactive world you'll find in any RPG. Despite this, more than a few people were left feeling unsatisfied by Baldur's Gate 3's ending. After the final battle is done, there's a small cutscene that sort of farewells each of your remaining party members, but it doesn't do that thing that most great RPGs do, where there's a moment to sit with your party and truly reflect on all you've accomplished. This week, Larian gave everybody exactly that. The Wither's epilogue is a new sequence that rolls out at the end of the game, and it's basically just a party. A night of merriment with your companions where you get the chance to spend one last night with them. It's not small either. Just the epilogue alone has over 3,500 lines of new dialogue, obviously accounting for all of the potential decisions you might have made along the way, either with or for your companions. It follows updates to Karlach's epilogue, as well as the promise of more epilogue content in the future. Personally, I did feel like Baldur's Gate 3 wrapped things up well enough because I was more invested in the character quest lines than the epilogue stuff, but if Larian are gonna give me one last date with my broody goth girlfriend, then I ain't gonna say no. Switching gears, Destiny 2 is certainly going through it right now. They just had a new season launch, but you'd barely know it as the chatter surrounding the game has died down significantly, owing to a general sense that Destiny just isn't in great shape. The game just had its worst ever month in terms of concurrent player counts, and things are unlikely to improve anytime soon since the seasonal model is currently only really delivering more of the same, more than the wholesale renovation that the game is in need of. Don't worry though, Bungie came up with a fantastic stopgap solution that's sure to win new players, welcome back existing players, and create the sort of positive sentiment that's sure to get Destiny some much needed positive press. What's that solution, you ask? Why, it's selling absolute garbage for $15 while labeling it a starter bundle. This thing appeared on the storefront the same day the new season went live, and it contains a handful of like C-tier exotics that are anything but essential in the current meta, some cosmetics for your Sparrow and Ghost, as well as some basic ass currency that you can earn in just like a few hours of play if you know what you're doing. The fact that this bundle exists as something purchasable is straight up shameful, since this is honestly the sort of thing I'd expect to get from a Twitch drop or something, but the fact that it's $15 is truly beyond the pale. Even worse, imagine positioning this as your starter bundle. New players will have seen this and thought, guess I need that to start playing Destiny, only to find out like 45 minutes after playing that Bungie has absolutely scammed them. Bungie has long been talking about making changes to the new player onboarding experience, but we had no idea that this is what they were talking about. It's a move that is quintessential Bungie, something that I've spoken about in almost every major piece of Destiny content I've ever done. They are the absolute masters of taking a blowtorch to their own goodwill, making boneheaded, profit-driven decisions that keep the conversation focused on how badly Bungie treats their customers, rather than focus on how good their actual game is. Anyway, this is one of the rare instances where Bungie actually backed down, removing the item from sale and posting up a ooh whoopsie tweet. It's nice to imagine that they've learned their lesson here, but I can promise you one thing, Bungie will never ever learn this lesson, and it is only a matter of time before Bungie's monetization team strikes again. Destiny 2 may be struggling, but if there's one live service that continues to go from strength to strength, it's Fortnite. The recent OG season saw their highest ever player count, 100 million players in a single month, a truly staggering number for a company that apparently isn't profitable and needs to lay off staff. The commercial stuff aside, I think it's important that we celebrate what Fortnite is and continues to be, because a bunch of extraordinarily talented developers work on it, and the results are often breathtaking. I mean, even I reinstalled so I could play that Big Bang event they just had, a really remarkable feat of game making that's basically an interactive trailer, but the technology that powers it, the scope it achieves, the different genres it reaches across, it's genuinely humbling to experience it for yourself. Much of the Big Bang was centered on what comes next for Fortnite, and it isn't just a new map and a Slim Shady cameo, cool as that is. It's actually a series of 3 all-new games made with Unreal in Fortnite, Epic's new game-making toolset that turns Fortnite into something like Roblox. These 3 games aren't project fans either, they're made by dedicated studios, and they even have brand tie-ins. Take the new LEGO experience for example, it was made in collaboration with the LEGO company, and it's basically a lovingly recreated Battle Royale experience, but with LEGO characters, LEGO weapons, LEGO structures, LEGO everything. Like everything LEGO related, you can't but smile when you see it, and it's clear just how much love has gone into this thing. Next up is Rocket Racing, which is an all-new original racing experience made by none other than Psyonix, makers of Rocket League. It features cars that can jump, dodge, drive on the ceiling, and even give other cars not so gentle love taps. It looks cool, and it's from Psyonix. That is literally the first new game that they've made since Rocket League, so that's worth checking out for that reason alone. Finally, the biggest surprise is Fortnite Festival. It's an all-new music experience made by Harmonix, the people behind Rock Band back in the day. Epic bought this company a little while ago, and now we see what they've been working on. It's a rhythm game focused on group play, licensed music, and concert events. All those concert experiences in Fortnite were clearly a warm-up round for this, but to be perfectly honest, I'm just glad Harmonix is still around to make stuff, because it was real touch and go with them for a while. These 3 new games will all be free to play and will launch later this week. They're all playable in the Fortnite client. It's just so impressive. We make fun of Fortnite, and it's important that we continue to do that, but jokes aside, It is a pretty incredible platform, and I'm always pretty blown away when I check in to see just how much Epic have achieved with it. Meanwhile, it still takes like 30 seconds for a screen to load on the Epic Games Store when you click on anything, so if you could maybe direct a few more development dollars that way, I think that'd be swell. Speaking of platforms, time for some platform news. Sony just gave us a stark reminder of the fact that when it comes to digital ownership, we don't own shit. We're just renting a license until such time as the license holder wants to revoke it. Case in point, this week Sony emailed a number of customers letting them know that if they purchase Discovery TV content, so shows like Mythbusters or whatever, then those purchases will no longer be available in their digital libraries. You can't watch them anymore, they're totally inaccessible, and best of all, Sony said no refunds. So just to be clear, Sony sold these people video content for them to own, but since Sony are getting out of the digital TV business and Warner Brothers hold the rights to Discovery programming, Sony are yanking those purchases while refusing to compensate the people who paid for them, and these people paid for them under the assumption that they would own them forever. Is there a more perfect warning sign for what's to come in the impending all-digital future? The subscription model folds into this, but in a slightly different way, since we at least know we definitely don't own anything there. Obviously, Game Pass is the biggest gaming subscription in town, but according to Xbox, it's not big enough, and they want Game Pass on every single screen, including Sony stuff and Nintendo handhelds. To be honest, the comments aren't all that new or interesting, but for whatever reason they got picked up and did the rounds last week when Microsoft CFO Tim Stuart said during an investor briefing that he would want to see Game Pass on basically any screen that can play it, including competitor platforms. Like I said, this did the rounds and people were like, oh, are Xbox planning on bringing Game Pass to Switch? It's kind of a lazy headline because of course Microsoft would like to do that. They've said as much many times over the years, since they would obviously benefit from having their subscription service accessible on rival platforms. But are there specific plans for this? No, and Phil Spencer said as much in a recent interview with Windows Central, quote, "I'll start by saying we have no plans to bring Game Pass to PlayStation or Nintendo. It's not in our plans," end quote. He'd go on to talk about how hardware is still very important to Microsoft. It's not all just about Game Pass. But yeah, there are no plans at the moment for Game Pass to arrive on a Nintendo Switch 2, for example, as cool as that would be. So Microsoft aren't planning for Game Pass on the Switch, but they are planning to have a mobile storefront on both Android and iOS devices. So that's a little complicated and we need to go back a bit. During the Activision Blizzard acquisition legal battle, documents revealed that Microsoft were very much planning to one day launch their own mobile storefront, similar to the Google Play Store on Android devices and the App Store on Apple devices. Your first response to that is likely to be, wait, that's illegal. But it's not, it's just that Google and Apple currently maintain a monopoly on the most widely used mobile devices, prohibiting the installation of competing storefronts. That is slowly changing, however, as a number of recent legal battles have forced both Google and Apple to loosen their iron grip, laying the foundations for a day when these companies will be forced to allow other competing storefronts to be installed on their devices. That day hasn't arrived yet, but Microsoft are betting big that it one day will, and recently have reiterated their plans for a mobile storefront that would allow them to sell apps and games directly to consumers, bypassing the 30% cut taken by Apple and Google. Microsoft is so far along in their planning that Phil Spencer has recently said that they've begun talking to external partners about it, a sure sign that this is a hell of a lot more than just a thought bubble in an email. This push is crucial for Microsoft, since the recent Activision Blizzard King acquisition was in large part about the acquisition of King, one of the largest and most successful mobile games publishers. If Microsoft can connect directly with that audience without having to pay Apple or Google a 30% cut for in-game transactions, then that is a move that will result in hundreds of billions of additional revenue over the coming years, and you can bet Phil Spencer is going to pull out all the stops to get it done. Alrighty, time for a seriously chunky lightning round, so hold on to your butts. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion is progressing well, but don't expect it anytime soon. That's according to FromSoft producer Yasuhiro Kiteo, who when speaking at an award ceremony in Japan went out of his way to quash rumors that the expansion was just around the corner. Those rumors were aspirationally hinting at a February release that always seemed ambitious but now looks wholly unlikely. Square Enix shared some high-level details about the Final Fantasy XVI DLCs currently in development. Game director Takai-san said, quote, "The 2 DLC episodes will dive further into the world of Final Fantasy XVI, where you can experience the dark and mysterious parts of Clive's story. We've also added more formidable bosses and battle content that you can enjoy. We hope you look forward to it," end quote. I love how Japanese developers always say that at the end of the stuff. It's very endearing. From some good Final Fantasy news to some bad, Final Fantasy Tactics game director Yasumi Matsuno has dashed any hopes for a Tactics remaster. Speaking on Twitter, he said, quote, "Currently there are no plans for remastering. Also, you have to convey your request to Square Enix, not me. Thank you for understanding," end quote. Pour one out for Tactics fans, I guess. They've been through so much and it seems like their suffering will only continue. This week, the ghoulish Embracer Group continued their warpath of layoffs. Their latest victims, New World Interactive, the team behind the critically acclaimed and moderately successful Insurgency Sandstorm. Embracer Group confirmed to GamesIndustry.biz that a number of people have been let go as part of what they're calling a restructure, but they weren't specific about how many jobs were affected. Embracer Group said that support for Insurgency will continue, as will work on other unannounced projects, but to be honest, it's kind of hard to trust anything these people say. Case in point, Embracer Group looked to be following through on a threat to shut down Free Radical Design, the studio working to reboot the Time Splitters franchise. VGC reported that people close to the matter had seen a company-wide email confirming that the shutdown would happen, but Embracer Group then responded to GamesIndustry.biz saying that no such email was sent out and that no statement had been released in relation to the decision. Would be very surprised if VGC got the story that wrong, and I fully expect we'll hear confirmation on the studio's closure very soon. Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin apparently flopped. The publicly traded Frontier Developments issued a trading update citing poor sales, causing their stock to tank some 20%. The title met fairly middling reviews and only peaked at 1,500 concurrent players on Steam, so this does indeed look like the disappointing launch that any studio fears. Unclear what this means for the future of the game and or studio. Bayonetta creator Hideki Kamiya is opening up after leaving Platinum Games, and he's got some interesting things to say about where Bayonetta might have gone under his leadership. Quote, "The Bayonetta series would consist of a total of 9 episodes, and I wanted to grow the franchise as the Bayonetta saga, but it seems like I might have to take the whole saga to the grave with me," end quote. Eesh, a little grim, don't you think? He'd go on to say that he expects Platinum to continue Bayonetta without him, but of course he doesn't know that for sure. After the disastrous cancellation of Hyenas, the free-to-play competitive shooter that never saw the light of day, Sega say Creative Assembly are going back to their roots. Sega boss Haruki Satomi had this to say of Sega's recent aggressive growth strategy, quote, "However, some studios did well and some did not, so we've decided to focus again on the strength of each studio," end quote. With how fractured CA's current relationship with their strategy community is, doubling down in that space and looking to rebuild that trust seems like a very good call. And finally, Capcom have confirmed what we have all long suspected: more Resident Evil remakes are on the way. Speaking during the same Japanese Game Awards I mentioned earlier, RE4 remake director Yasuhiro Unpo spoke about the fact that the remakes had done extremely well for Capcom and that they had no intention of stopping anytime soon. Quote, "What game we will remake in the future is something we would like to announce in the future, so please look forward to it." See? I told you Japanese developers love that line. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, apart from that little known indie gem GTA 6, there were some other games announced this week. Many of them came by way of the PC game show Most Wanted 2023 edition. It was very long, as all PC game shows are. They are not known for their brevity, though I am certainly one to talk. Regardless, it did have plenty of cool things to show off. Most of it was already announced, but some of it was all new, like Wild Bastards. This is a follow-up from the team who did Void Bastards, a clever and funny first-person roguelike that did well for itself a few years back. This looks to be the same sort of source, only now it's in a sci-fi Wild West setting, which I believe is technically referred to as the Wiki Wild West. Sorry, that was really bad. Anyway, no date for Wild Bastards, but it's arriving in 2024. I think it looks great, and I'll definitely be checking it out. There were a few other release date announcements that fell out of the PC game show, some of which I'm actually very excited about. Top of my list is Pacific Drive. Hopefully this is on your radar at this point, but if not, it's like a survival game, but it's all about keeping your car running as you make your way across a deeply messed up rendition of the Pacific Northwest. It's got this old-timey, low-tech aesthetic that means your ride is always going to look like a thrown-together heap, but it's your heap, and you gotta dance with the one that brung you. I attended a hands-off preview session for this a little while ago, and I was all in. It looked genuinely fantastic, and I'm very glad to know that on February 22nd, we will all be able to play this one. Well, I mean, those of us on PC and PS5 will be able to. Xbox and Nintendo bros will have to wait a little longer. Homeworld 3 was the other release date that got me a little excited. Played this one a while back. In fact, I've played it twice now, and each time it was excellent. Blackbird Interactive clearly demonstrating a lot of mastery over the source material. After a few prior delays, this one is now confirmed to be arriving on March 8th, exclusive to PC, of course, because man, I really can't imagine how you play Homeworld on a console. That'd be very tricky. Last shout out is for Ultros, a game I profiled recently in my Put This On Your Radar segment. This is now locked in for February 13th, and yeah, I don't know, man, it feels like smaller indies choosing to release in February 13th are kind of stacking the deck against themselves, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Outside of the PC game show, there were some other announcements this week, like the official release date reveal of Dragon's Dogma 2. This one had been earlier leaked, and it turns out that leak was 100% accurate. Dragon's Dogma 2 will launch for current-gen consoles and PC on March 22nd. Sons of the Forest is one I've been holding off for until the early access period was finished, and this week we learned that that's pretty soon. On February 22nd, the game will enter 1.0 after a very positive early access period that already has the title at 96% overwhelmingly positive on Steam. I've never actually played the first one, so this will be my first foray into the forest. I'm very keen. Taking a step back though, February is a lot. Right now, we already have Suicide Squad, Helldivers 2, Banishers, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Ultros, Thaumaturge, Last Epoch, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and there are unconfirmed reports that Skull and Bones will be releasing that month. Though with any potential Skull and Bones release date, we should absolutely take that with a bucket of salt. Publishers, for the last 2 years running, we have done these stacked Februaries, and I would like to remind you that March and April both exist. Please feel free to delay your video games a touch to give us all a little bit of breathing room. Thank you very much. I actually left one game off the Feb list, by the way, and it's the recently delayed Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. Now, this is an RTS set in the Terminator universe, which I think is actually a pretty good setup, and I could totally see that working. It was meant to arrive on PC this week, but at the very last second, the developer announced a delay, and it will now arrive on February 21st. Team said they needed some more time to polish and finish up and whatever. Fair enough. Only other delay was one that we well and truly saw coming. Bungie announced that the final shape expansion for Destiny 2 has indeed been delayed to June 4th, confirming earlier reporting from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. This would make for an unreasonably long final season before the expansion drops, so Bungie are offering up a stopgap, something called Into the Light, which I'm gonna guess is gonna be some vaulted content brought back, since game director Joe Blackburn has said that this content is intended for both veteran and potential players. No other details about it at this point though, we'll find out more at a later date. So what came out last week? Well, there was that Wizardom game from Apogee, a magic-based boomer shooter with a shareware aesthetic. Only a handful of reviews for this one on Steam, but it's 98% very positive, so that's not bad. No critic reviews for this one yet. I guess people are busy refinishing Baldur's Gate 3 for the new epilogue. Gangs of Sherwood arrived, and it's apparently not very good. Can't say I'm super surprised. I checked out some gameplay for this one, and it kind of reminded me of that Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance game from a little while ago. Not a flattering comparison. This one sits at a mixed 50% on Steam and a weak 63 on OpenCritic. Probably best to wait for this one to hit a subscription service if you're at all interested, especially given that it's intended to be played co-op. The Turok 3 remaster from Night Dive Studios arrived, and it's met a strong reception on Steam, 90% very positive, but critics are a little cooler on it. A few reviews calling out that the visual uplift here wasn't as profound as it was on the previous entries. Regardless, it's still a very solid remaster, and inarguably the best way to enjoy this game in 2023. The same cannot be said of the Batman Arkham Trilogy Switch port. Last week, I half joked that we'd never seen a bad Arkham port, referencing the famous Arkham Knight PC port, which was so bad that it was eventually temporarily delisted from sale and went on to become the gold standard for how to absolutely balk the PC porting process. The Nintendo Switch port of the Arkham Trilogy isn't that bad, thankfully, but it ain't great either. The ever-reliable Digital Foundry weighed in on the matter, tweeting out a snippet of Arkham Knight gameplay and saying, quote, "Arkham Knight on Switch is unacceptable. Terrible performance, poor visual quality, and game-breaking glitches. I'll have a video on it and other Arkham ports next week," end quote. I mean, I kind of get it because Arkham Knight was always a looker, so I had no idea how they were going to squeeze that onto the Switch. But if you can't do it, then don't sell it. If, however, you are keen to experience this on a handheld, then the Steam Deck runs it beautifully, plus, you know, plays a lot of other stuff beautifully as well. Great machine. God bless the Steam Deck. Speaking of Steam, Steam World Build arrived on all platforms on the 1st, and it's met a fairly rosy reception. On Steam, it's sitting at a mostly positive 77%, while critics have it at exactly the same, a strong 77 on OpenCritic. IGN scored it a 7, saying, quote, "Steam World Build is a simple but fun city builder cleverly combined with a dungeon constructing miner that keeps things quick and casual," end quote. Only other release this week was Hawked, a Fortnite-inspired free-to-play extraction shooter that's looking to offer a more approachable take on the genre. No critic reviews for this one yet, as it's only an early access release, but Steam reviews have been none too kind, with the title currently sitting at a mixed 44%. Negative reviews point to some sloppy gameplay, a weak version of the extraction model without the necessary stakes, plenty of bugs, and a cash shop that is clearly taking the piss, as most free-to-play cash shops do. These sorts of games usually take a long time to build, but these days they're more likely to die on the vine than flourish. Hopefully this doesn't end up in the cancelled live services block of this very show anytime soon. Alrighty, so what's coming out this week? week. Well, welcome to the last big week of 2023. It's actually surprisingly big, as a few additions and delays snuck in at the last minute to make for a truly stacked finish to what was one of the most stacked years in gaming history. Kicking us off is that Cyberpunk Ultimate Edition, which arrived on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC today, including that sneaky update patch 2.1 as well. A Highland Song is one I've had my eye on for a little while, namely because it comes from the same studio that produced 80 Days, a really wonderful narrative game on mobile, which is obviously crazy because who makes narrative games on mobile? Highland Song continues in that narrative tradition, but it has actual visuals as opposed to just text, and they look really nice. It's got platforming and climbing, and there's this whole music thing going on. It looks really lovely, and given the pedigree of the studio, I definitely think it's worth checking out. It hits Switch and PC on the 5th. Disney Dreamlight Valley is a town life game starring Disney characters that had a fairly successful early access period and is hitting 1.0 today on all platforms. It was meant to go free to play upon its 1.0 release, but that plan changed, and it's now a premium title that still has microtransactions. So if you are buying this one for your little one, then make sure your account is purchase password protected. Skater XL has been out on other platforms for donkey's years, but today it arrives for the Nintendo Switch. Sonic Dream Team is that very cool looking, all new Sonic title, which is rather bizarrely exclusive to Apple iOS as part of their Apple Arcade service. I'm sure it will eventually come to other platforms, but yeah, it seems a very strange move for Sega given how central Sonic is to their overall reach and relevance. I do have an Apple Arcade subscription, so I'll be checking this out this week while I'm traveling. I'll let you know how it goes. The Anacrusis is a 4-player co-op shooter from some of the people who made Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. This one's a similar deal, only it's aliens instead of zombies, and it's set aboard a space station instead of, random terrestrial settings. This has been in early access since January of last year, but I feel like it really hasn't made much of a splash. Maybe that changes when the game goes into 1.0 today, exclusive to PC and Xbox for now, and it doesn't appear to be on Game Pass. It was at one point, but it's since been removed. I'm unsure if it'll ever come back. Lord of the Rings Return to Moria arrived for Xbox and PC last month, and today it arrives for PS5. It's meant to be not great, it's like okay, but if you've really got a hankering for some dwarven rock beating, then you should play Deep Rock Galactic. But if you really need your Lord of the Rings fix, then yeah, I guess you're gonna have to play this. One of the most promising but worst marketed releases this week is Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. I say promising because it's Owlcat, the team behind the excellent Pathfinder games, and I say worst marketed because I swear to God I haven't seen a single bit of marketing for this, and it's out this week. It's a shame because all the previews to this point have been glowing, and this is a CRPG from an experienced CRPG team at a time when people are thirsty for more CRPGs. This is a self-published title, so I'm going to guess Owlcat put their money in development rather than in billboards and press kits, but I really hope the word gets out on this one since it definitely deserves to be on people's radar. That is, assuming of course that the final product lives up to those encouraging previews. This one is hitting all platforms bar the Switch on the 7th.
Hey guys, Austin here. Thought I'd slide in to cover this next release, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So I've played and finished this, and you know what? I loved it. My high-level thoughts are that this is a game with an okay story and decent combat, but its real shining star is Pandora. I know we all just saw the GTA 6 trailer, but this is absolutely one of the most spectacular natural environments ever created in a video game so far. Just a masterfully realized world with its visuals, soundscape, and haptics offering total immersion, the likes of which I have only ever experienced from like Cyberpunk. It's definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a fun open world romp, but especially so if you're an Avatar fan like me, as this absolutely nails that Na'vi fantasy. This released today on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Stay tuned for my full review coming later this week.
Thank you, Austin. Moving right along, plenty of other stuff releasing on the 7th. If you're into VR, then Arizona Sunshine 2 arrives on all VR platforms then, and Lego Brick Tales arrives exclusive to the MetaQuest 3 as well. This has got some funky mixed reality shit going on. Looks kind of cool, to be honest. The single greatest video game ever made is finally getting a Switch port. Outer Wilds Archaeology Edition includes both the base game and the extraordinary Echoes of the Eye expansion. I continue to be extremely nervous about how this runs on the Nintendo Switch, but I guess we'll find out on the 7th or before if they're doing early review code. I don't know. Mobius Digital, don't speak to me. I think I freaked them out the same way that the adoring fan freaks out people in Oblivion and Starfield. The last big release of the week, if you can call it that, is the day before. I cannot believe we are finally here. And I mean that literally. I literally cannot believe that this game is actually releasing after a series of trailers that looked a little too suspicious in their similarity to games like The Division, Call of Duty, and even Grand Theft Auto, after a massive downgrading of visual fidelity from trailer reveal to actual gameplay, after a downgrade from a full release to an early access release, and of course, after a trademark dispute involving the name that saw the game delisted from Steam for months. The day before is an actual, honest-to-goodness video game that we are going to be able to play on the 7th. Maybe. How do I think it'll go? Here's my one prediction. This is one of the most wish-listed games on Steam, and the only beta test they've done to prepare their network infrastructure is an internal test with their volunteers. If this game is actually playable inside the first 5 days of release, then this team has pulled off one of the great network engineering feats of our time, and they need to subcontract themselves out to other studios to help everyone else land holes in one the way that they did. Outside of that, I'm just looking forward to taking hot tubs with my bros. P.S. If there's no hot tub at launch, I'm gonna get a refund. Hey, put this on your radar. Something a little different this time around, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the VR Fest that Valve are currently running over on Steam. I always go out of my way to cover their indie-focused Next Fest, so it feels right that I shout this one out too. To be fair, this one isn't nearly as ambitious as a Next Fest. It hasn't got developer live streams or a slew of new demos, but it does have some pretty juicy discounts on VR titles, making it a great excuse to dust off that old VR headset. It coincides with Valve releasing something very important in the VR space, and that's Steam Link for MetaQuest headsets. It's a native MetaQuest app that allows you quick, easy, and wireless access to your entire Steam library, even when using a MetaQuest headset. It's a bit of a game changer, to be honest. You could always access your Steam library on MetaQuest headsets before, but now it's just smoother and better, and as someone who's recently been getting back into VR, this was a really nice surprise. The VR scene still feels like it's in its absolute infancy when it comes to games, but it's getting there slowly, and I just wanted to use this block to remind everyone that VR still exists, and it should probably be on your radar. If you're interested to learn more, I'll leave a link to Steam's VR Fest homepage below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and there's one hell of a haul this week, let me tell ya. Damn man, Santa came early this year. So kicking things off as always is Epic. Usually I jump straight to the list of free games available on the Epic Store, but I'd remind you that the new season of Fortnite just dropped and it features buff Peter Griffin. Pretty hard to say no to that, I think. Also, later this week, we'll get those 3 new Unreal in Fortnite games. There's the Lego one, Rocket Racing, and Fortnite Festival. Not bad for Nix. Still, if it's the more traditional game you're looking for, then perhaps you'll enjoy Jitsu Squad or Mighty Fight Federation, 2 classically inspired brawlers with plenty of cameo appearances. They're available right now, but in a few days' time, you'll be able to get your hands on the excellent Gigabash, a kaiju brawler, and as someone that just watched Godzilla Minus Zero, I am very into this. The other offering is Predecessor, and it's more than a little ironic that Epic are giving this away for free, given that Predecessor is actually a game born from Paragon, the MOBA that Epic developed and published for a while before decommissioning it and making its assets available to modders. A number of different projects have looked to bring Paragon back in different forms, and Predecessor is definitely one of the most successful. Will it find success where Epic did not? It's hard to say, but if you want to check it out for yourself, then this would be a very good chance to do just that. The monthly PS Plus Essential lineup has been revealed, and it's pretty good. LEGO 2K Drive is the headline act, a solid arcade racer undermined by what 2K does best: in-game spending. You can wash off the muck of that in-game shop with Power Wash Simulator, which is genuinely amazing, and if you haven't played it yet and you're laughing at the thought of how dumb it is it would be to clean virtual things in a video game, then you, my friend, are in for a very big surprise. Final game for the month is Sable, of course, absolutely wonderful. I've spoken about it many times and will do so again many more times. Just a really fantastic exploratory experience and one of the best soundtracks of any game in the last few years. Game Pass this month though, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, Phil Spencer must be in a good mood to be spoiling us like this. This month, Xbox can get their hands on Far Cry 6, the all-new SteamWorld build, World War Z Aftermath, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Goat Simulator, Remnant from the Ashes, and also Remnant 2. You know, the basically new release that everyone loved and is a nominee in a handful of Game Award categories this year. Yeah, that one. What the hell, man? Like, what was really crazy about this was that it was totally just shadow dropped by Xbox and Gearbox. It just suddenly appeared in the Xbox app and everyone was like, is that a bug? But no, it was not a bug. It's just a very, very good video game that you can play now for next to nothing. Thank you very much, Uncle Phil. You are too good to us sometimes. Alrighty, it's been a very long episode, so we got to get this feel-good story for the week done quick. And maybe it's because I'm feeling a soft spot for Fortnite right now, but this week I saw the following post on Threads. Quote, Zack Snyder says he plays too much Fortnite. My wife is like, are you seriously playing Fortnite at 3 a.m. against some 12-year-olds? My skin is Mr. Meeseeks. If you've been killed by Mr. Meeseeks, that could have been Zack Snyder, end quote. I know people like to give Zack Snyder shit, but he genuinely seems like a pretty cool dude. And to hear that he's up until all hours chasing W's while running around as a little blue alien, it really makes you feel like despite all of his millions of dollars, his rugged handsomeness, and his endless horde of annoying fans, he just like us for real, for real. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that was the show. Legitimately the longest this week in video games ever, maybe? I mean, it wasn't H-Bomberman lengths, but you know, it was on its way. By the way, did you guys see that video? Holy shit, what a ride. Good YouTube content is very hard to make, and someday I hope to make some myself. For whatever reason though, you guys keep putting up with me and I appreciate that. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you could drop it a like. That'll help me push through as I'm sagging under the weight of jet lag and late nights. If you'd like to come back, then be sure to subscribe. Tomorrow we've got that Avatar review going up, and this weekend we'll have an episode of the Friends Per Second podcast, a special in-person episode. They're always a great time. Thank you again for watching, ladies and gentlemen, especially all the way to the end, and a big thanks to this week's sponsor, Raycon. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas! Santa may be jolly, because this is the one time of the year that he gets to leave his house, but for the rest of us, the gifting season can be a little tricky as we try to come up with the perfect gift for our friends or loved ones. Luckily, it's not that hard. Enter Raycon with their range of high quality yet affordable audio products. Now I know you've heard about Raycons before, you watch YouTube so you've seen the ads, but Raycon are out there like that because they're proud of what they make, and they should be. Raycon earbuds have been some of the best value earbuds on the market, but Raycon delivers all of that at a fraction of the cost. It's such a reasonable price that I've bought many pairs over the years, gifting them to friends and family because we all need another set of earbuds, right? The pair we keep in our backpack, in our gym bag, or the ones that we leave in our lockers at school or work. Nothing I hate more than being without earbuds, so having a few pairs of Raycons laying around has saved me on plenty of occasions. As for using them, I've always loved them. Their custom gel tips create a snug, comfortable, noise-isolating fit, and Raycons actually stay in my ear. That's one of the biggest reasons I use them, actually. I've tried other earbuds, and the shape of my ear means that they just fall out all the time, but Raycons stay in no matter what I'm doing. They have earbud tap functions, allowing me to pause or skip songs without having to touch my phone, plus they sound great, and the carry case is nice and small, and it fits so easily in your pocket. But that's not all Raycon have. Recently they launched a new line of products including speakers, chargers, cables and more. In fact, they even bundled some of this stuff up in their new tech kits, providing a hefty discount of up to 25% just in time for the holiday season. If you're not grabbing one of those, you can still get 15% off anything on the Raycon site by visiting buyraycon.com/skillup. That landing page will get you at least 15% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/skillup. Perfect gift for the holidays just became even more perfect. Thanks Raycon for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.